My lips are moving, but you can't hear me? You can hear me? Even closer? Any good? Yes, amazing. Come on in if you're coming in, grab a seat. Welcome to Sunday morning. It's okay, Zoe. I'm Zoe. We're all right. We're all Zoe still. Or Helen, or Rachel, or yeah, anyway. Welcome to Sunday morning. I'm glad to see you all back here. I can hear a little bit of echo. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, I will ignore the echo. Wonderful. So, if you don't know me, this is me, the other Zoe, not the first Zoe, the second Zoe, the first one's fine. I'm Zoe Kinstone. I'm Director for the UK and Ireland for the Raspberry Pi Foundation. Some of you may have known me in my previous role, Director of Clubs. My role has changed a bit, but I'm still all here for Code Club, especially in the UK and Ireland. I still have a lot of love for the global community, so please feel free to keep chatting to me. In terms of today, I'm not going to get you whooping and cheering yet. It's Sunday morning. It is just about 9:30. I know you've had some coffee, but yesterday there was a lot going on, so just feel free to sit at ease while I talk to you for a little bit. We'll get to the whooping and cheering in a bit. If you feel ready to whoop and cheer, don't hold back, let it out, but I won't judge you if you don't. No problem. We've got a few different people here today. Some people aren't here that were here yesterday, but we have some new staff members that have joined us today and a few new community members I hear. So if you weren't here yesterday, if you could just give me a little wave. So these are the people who you should go and chat to because they haven't met anyone yet. They weren't maybe looking a bit lost, don't know where they're going. Hopefully not the staff members. I think the ones that weren't here yesterday are outside. So yes, please feel free to keep talking to each other if you were here yesterday, but be extra friendly and kind to the people that weren't. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about other things that go on at the Raspberry Pi Foundation before we get on with the business of today, of the second day of Clubs Conference. So as you may or may not know, Code Club is run by the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and there are lots of other things that go on at the foundation. So I'm going to give you a very brief mention of a few of those other things, because I know some of you are teachers, have other careers outside your volunteering life, or just other interests in general. So the first thing is, in terms of teaching computer science, if you are a teacher either here in the UK or elsewhere in the world, or have an interest in teaching CS or blurring the lines of your Code Club, these are the things for you. So you may have heard of the computing curriculum, free resources, available to access, whether you're a teacher or not. Everything is available on the Raspberry Pi Foundation website. And we also offer a range of professional development opportunities, and we are soon to relaunch our online courses later next year, so keep a lookout for that. You may have come across some of the things that we do for Code Club specifically, but there is a whole host of other courses and modules out there, so please do check that out if that's of interest to you. And Ada Computer Science is what we call our online textbook. So this is something that is focused in terms of our work in England and Scotland, but as always with all of our things that we do, it's freely available globally as well. So it's mapped in terms of content to GCSEs and A-levels and nationals and higher for Scotland, and you'll see all of the exam boards on there if that's where you are working. A couple of other things to mention that aren't on the slide that are specific for the UK. So we, as Raspberry Pi Foundation, are the provider of BEBRAS in the UK. That's a computational thinking competition. Some of you may have been involved and not known it was anything to do with us as well. There's a little beaver. I'll leave that for you to work out if you don't know what I'm talking about. That is a global program, but we are the provider only in the UK, and is kicking off for 2025 in a couple of weeks on the 10th of November. It runs for 2 weeks till the 21st, so you're not too late if you want to get involved in that for this year. And one last thing, super specific, if you are in or from or connected to Manchester, we have something quite new and exciting going on in Manchester, so please find me today and I will talk to you a bit more about that. Okay, something else to mention, I know a few of you have heard about this, Experience AI, been around for a couple of years now, but getting more and more global and massive as the years go on. So again, freely available to everyone, whether you're a teacher or not, but this is focused on teachers in classrooms teaching about AI literacy. And we've developed the content in partnership with Google DeepMind, but we are delivering through partners in terms of teacher training in many countries around the world now. In the UK, our partner is called Parent Zone, so you might have come across them delivering some training, and in Ireland we're working with Kinea. So I won't say anything more about that, but please feel free to look it up and have a go. And then last but not least, this is our newest offering. This has very recently launched in North America, so in both the US and in Canada. This is an integrated CS curriculum. So that means teaching CS concepts in other subjects, so including the more obvious like maths and science, but also music, art, a whole host of different things. Again, freely accessible to everybody. We are going to be launching additional support for this in Ireland. We don't currently have plans for that in the UK, but if you are interested or you want to know more, please feel free to come and talk to me about it at some point today. There are also lots of other things going on, so please feel free to always check out the Raspberry Pi Foundation website or come and talk to any of us and we can point you at different staff members if people don't know about the particular thing that you are interested in. That is all that I'm going to say about other things that we do. So, yesterday, most of you were here. We had a great time. I wanted to just share a few of my reflections from the sessions that I was in and the conversations that I had. I know that you will all have plenty of different things because there was so much going on. The first thing was I was in a session about robotics. There were lots of great conversations. One of the things that struck me is that you can be involved in this community and in the world of tech for a decade or even more, and there is still more to learn. There are new developments, there are things that you have never heard of that other people have been using for years, and that's okay. And the space that we've created here means it's all right to have those conversations. This is the first time you've heard of Lego doing this or a Crumble doing that. This is the space to talk about that, and you can keep learning from here. If that is your bag, we have a couple of sessions coming up after me this morning, one focused on Arduinos and the other on Raspberry Pi Picos. That's the 10 o'clock sessions in some of the rooms down the corridor. The second thing that I was in a conversation about that I thought was super helpful and interesting is the drama, the trauma of schools blocking things and how we as an organisation could support that more. So one of the things we shared yesterday was a how-to guide for if you want to use this bit of our content on Code Club projects, this is what you need to get unblocked. So this is, we're talking about software, but also whitelisting websites. So thinking about how we could do more to support you with that, to make it really easy to persuade your in-house IT tech or for them to persuade the head teacher or whatever the setup is in your school. And I know that that is something that causes a lot of, takes a lot of your time and is quite frustrating for a lot of people. Something else that stayed with me was from Dale Lane's session, who's out there somewhere today. Yeah. The description of a language model as a statistical next word guesser. I want to get better at saying that, but I'm going to take that away and use that because I think if you're old enough to understand all of those words, that's a really great description of understanding what it is. It's not a real thing that's talking to you. It's just a statistical next word getter. See, I need to practice. But that really stuck with me. And then all the bits in between, all the little conversations in the corridor, waiting outside a room while you're having your coffee. It's just so wonderful to see new faces, people that have been here the last few years, just be around all of you. There's always new connections being made, both for me and for everybody else that's here as well. So yeah, just an absolute pleasure spending time with you all. So it wouldn't be an intro to Sunday morning without a few photos of yesterday. This is when I'd like you to get your enthusiasm ready. If you see yourself on the screen, give me a whoop, give me a hooray, stand up if you want to, maybe a wave. If the person on the screen is someone that you know or spoke to yesterday, or maybe you've just seen, please join in, give them a bit of support and enthusiasm. These are not all the photos from yesterday, there's loads more. I've just picked a few that came at the end of the day. So get your hands ready, get your voices ready, here we go. All right. And if you didn't see yourself there, today's your chance. Grab one of the roundels, grab a camera, share your photos with us. We would love to see you. And if you want another chance to connect with community members outside of this, a few people asking yesterday for this link. So please feel free to note this down. I can see a few people taking photos. We can share it with everybody after the event as well if you missed this, so please don't worry. This is our community Slack instance. So even if you're not on Slack, you have no idea what that means, don't worry. This is an online tool that is a way to connect with other people who are in the Code Club community, and lots of other organizations use it as a way to communicate. So if you've heard of maybe back in the day, MSN Messenger, showing my age there, or other similar tools like Teams, then this is a similar kind of thing. Okay, so what about today? We're all here. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to turn to someone next to you, ideally someone you don't know, same as yesterday. Say good morning, find out if they've had their coffee yet, see what they're looking forward to today, and then I will call you back for a little bit more of an intro to what's happening today. Go for it, 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes are up. I know it went by too quickly. 2 minutes are over. Come back to me. Hello. I know you could talk all day. Guess what? We're going to be here most of the day, so you will get to talk to each other more. All right, so let's talk a bit more about what is going on today. This is the plan. I know it's too small for you to read right now, but just to give you an idea, we are on the top line, the welcome that goes all the way across. Then you've got 3 sessions with lots of choices, same as yesterday. Hopefully you know where you're going, but if you don't worry, there's still time to figure that out. I know there was a bit of movement yesterday in some of the rooms that were quite busy. If you haven't booked in for a session and the room looks jammed, if you can fit in, please do, but ideally go to the sessions you booked into if the rooms are getting a bit squeezy. And then we are also going to have lunch later. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. And then we're back here for a closing session. So that's the 2 lines along the bottom. So in terms of more specifics for today, I just want to let you know there are snacks all morning. Please don't feel you need to wait. So you can get a snack on the way to your first session and your second session and your third session. Please feel free. Lunch is a bit later today. It's at 1 o'clock, so don't let your tummy rumble. Get whatever you need. Don't hold back. Go in the middle of the session. Whatever you need to do, it's fine. And then we are all back here at 2 o'clock after lunch. I know there are some people that might need to disappear to travel a bit earlier than that, so we might not have everyone for the last session. But if you do have the chance to stay, I do encourage you to stay. We're going to have a really great conversation with some of you out there in the community. So we've got 4 people with a really wide range of backgrounds in terms of experience of running clubs. So I think it's going to be a great conversation. So I do encourage you to join us for that if you can. Okay, a few practical things before we all head off into our sessions. This is the map. Hopefully you remember where you're going from yesterday if you were here. If not, there's maps like this all around the building. There were a few bits of lost property. I think some of the bags look similar and people took bags that had things in them that weren't theirs a little bit. If you've lost something, please go straight out this door and turn right, and you might find what you're looking for. If you have lost something and it's not there, please feel free to come and talk to us on the desk, either at reception or just out here. In terms of travel home, I know there's a few changes going on with trains and planes. If you have anything that you need help with, please don't hesitate to go to the front reception desk. Helen and Dan are out there and are happy to help people if you need changes with bookings or anything like that. I think that is all the practical things I was supposed to say. Have I forgotten anything? No. Amazing. All right. You have 10 minutes, almost on the nose, to get your snacks, get your coffee, go to the loo, whatever you need to do, and then get into your first sessions. I look forward to seeing you all later. Thank you.
session this morning. We have two lovely speakers here for you this morning, and plenty of time for questions, so feel free to collect them to ask them after their talk. First of all, we have the lovely Andy Briggs from a co-club just outside Cheltenham, which is in the south of England, if you're not knowledgeable about these things. Anyway, with no more ado, I shall pass over to Andy.
Thank you very much, Tamsin. Thanks very much for coming to see the talk. I was a little bit worried that everyone would be taken away by the draw of exciting workshops. So I'm glad to see there's so many people come to see this. So this talk, it's about unplugged learning, so sort of teaching tech without using any tech. But it's also about cybersecurity. And this is, so my day job is in cybersecurity. I think it's a really interesting subject. But it seems to also be one that we teach in quite a boring way. Hands up if you have to do a sort of annual sort of security review where you sort of do a refresher about these are the dangers of phishing emails and the like. Yeah, we've got 1 or 2 hands up. Right? Keep your hands up if it makes you feel like this. So I think we can do a bit better. I mean, if this is the way we're teaching cybersecurity to adults, kids are definitely going to be bored by that. So this talk is about how I try to come up with something a bit more effective and to create an unplugged activity where I teach kids about cybersecurity via a fake chicken shop where I get them to dance as chickens. So a bit about me first, so thank you for the lovely intro, Tamsin. I'm Andy Briggs. I wear quite a few hats really. So as well as my day job in software at a company called Shorevine, I also run the Coder Dojo at Bishop's Cleeve. We've been running regularly for the last 3 years in the library there. But I also do a bunch of other sort of STEM ambassador volunteering, and I'm starting to put some of that up on YouTube as well. So a little plug for the video I've done for the escape room, which I presented at CubsCon last year. Cool, yes. So I wanted to sort of present this case study to talk about the activity that I came up with. But one thing I would say is while I have all those hats, one hat I don't wear is sort of an expert at teaching. So I wanted to give you a sort of warts and all view of the case study, because I expect there are people out there who could sort of help me with some of the teaching aspects of it, sort of say you could be more effective if you changed X or Y. So it'd be really interesting to hear your questions at the end and to hear your feedback. So yeah, really keen to hear that. So this activity was actually something I put together for one of my other STEM Ambassador volunteering events. It was something I produced for an event called Empower, which is part of the Cyber First program. Are people familiar with Cyber First? It's a sort of initiative by NCSC, so the UK sort of, National Cybersecurity Centre, aimed at raising awareness of cybersecurity, particularly in underrepresented groups, but in children in general across the UK, with the idea of encouraging more people to consider it as a career. And Empower is sort of the headline event. So they run them around the country, but this is the Gloucestershire one. And for the last few years, they've got 1,000 or so school kids into a giant room like this. And various companies have come along and taught them all about different aspects of cybersecurity and sort of what they can expect as a career. And often you get companies like, I don't want to pick on anyone particular, but let's go with Microsoft. They'll come along and they'll talk about the technological side of cybersecurity. And I think in a way that's kind of what the kids are expecting. They think a career in cyber means sort of sitting at a computer and doing coding or doing like really technical things. And I think a lot of kids might write it off as a subject that is of interest to them or something they could do because of that sort of narrow view. So, excuse me. What I wanted to do was create an activity that focused on the human side of cybersecurity and show the kids there's a lot more to it than just the sort of fancy tech. Because yeah, after all, you could have amazing cybersecurity tech, but according to this stat that I found the other day, 95% of data breaches are caused by a human element. So the thing I say to the kids at the start of the activity is you can have absolutely amazing technology, but if I can convince you to give me your password, it all just collapses. So yeah, so I think it's really great to show the kids there's more to cyber than just the technological side of this, so they can bring other skills. But I also think this is actually a really useful life skill to have. You hear stories about scammers stealing data all the time these days. So if we can raise awareness of that with the kids, even if they don't go into it as a career, it's still a useful thing for them to be aware of. So I wanted to sort of get across this sort of human side, and I thought, well, how can I teach this? How can I sort of come up with an activity that demonstrates this to the kids? And what I came up with was a fake chicken shop. So the way the activity works is we have this counter. I have two fantastic volunteers here who play the role of servers. And the idea is we challenge the kids to talk their way into stealing the secret recipe. So they need to sort of convince these two people that they sort of work for the company and that they ought to be given the crown jewels of the company, basically. Yeah, so this was actually last year when we ran it. The first time we ran it initially in the racecourse in Cheltenham, weirdly at a William Hill counter, so we had to sort of cover up all the betting signs and everything. And then this year, so just a few weeks ago, we ran it again, and this was in a giant sports centre again. So yeah, we had this sort of area where we had a sort of fake counter set up, and then the kids had space around to sort of do their thing. Right, so specifically what I was trying to teach with this was, as I say, sort of that awareness of the techniques that scammers use. It's actually known in sort of cybersecurity as something called social engineering, this sort of approach of getting people to do what you want rather than hacking the technology. So as well as giving kids an awareness of that, I also wanted them to know this is an actual job you can do. So people get paid to go into companies and test the human side of cybersecurity. So they might see if they could come in through the swipe doors, whether someone would hold a door open for them and things like that. And they then report back, and the company can fix its processes, make itself more secure as a result. Yeah, so that was a really big thing for me. I think sort of showing kids that there's more jobs to this area than sort of just sitting at a computer. And actually, if you've got sort of, if you're skilled with conversation, you can bring that to the role as well. And yeah, as I say, it's really useful for protecting against. We get phishing emails literally, or probably like every minute while we're sat here. More phishing emails are appearing in our inbox, so it's a really useful thing. I did originally think about whether this could be a sort of AI-based activity, and the kids could write or sort of craft their own phishing emails, and you could have an AI evaluating it. But I thought it's the same concepts that you could teach in person, and it's much more enjoyable to get them away from the computer screen, and a lot simpler to do as well. So yeah, much easier to sort of teach a volunteer how to respond rather than train an AI. Interesting idea though, and if anyone wants to have a go at that, definitely let me know. Yeah, so how does the activity work? I think a really important part of it is I start it by giving the kids an introduction, because being honest, it's a really mad thing to ask them to do. And the night before I ran it the first time, I was a bit worried that they just wouldn't get it and they'd look at me really blankly and be really confused. So I do a sort of 2-minute intro where I explain the lessons really that they're learning and sort of emphasize the fact that these are jobs you can do in the field. So get across those key points before chaos ensues and they run off and jump into the activity. And I think that does a really good job of setting the scene. They all seem to sort of know what they're doing after that point. Yeah, the other really important thing actually is I make the point that we are testing security, and these are not things that they should go and replicate in the real world. And when people do this as a job, they have explicit permission from the company to do it. I think that's really important because obviously they get into a lot of trouble if they go into an actual KFC and try and steal the recipe. But also, it's really unpleasant for the people involved, like the people who are sort of subject to these tests. It's not nice to feel that you've been tricked. And so we should only do it if we absolutely need to, and if there's a sort of positive reason that's going to come out of the other side of it. So yes, I give the teams that intro. I then tell them they've got 20 minutes to try and talk their way into getting the secret recipe, and we'll go through in a second all the steps they need to follow to do that. But the other key thing here is I also give them printed instructions, because it was really important to me that this activity was about practicing those sort of social engineering skills. It wasn't about finding out what they were meant to be doing. So I think perhaps you could have a sort of another activity where there's more sort of, it's more up to them to sort of solve the puzzles and work out what they've got to do. But for this, I wanted it to be really focused, and I wanted them to know what the next step was at each point. Yes, so step one, they have to case the joint, basically. So yeah, step one, if you're looking into like, how can I sort of socially engineer this company, you go along and see how the people dressed. So I wonder if I've got a laser pointer on here. I don't know, maybe not. There's nothing on the end, so probably not. But yeah, you can see, if we come along to our chicken shop, there's a few things we can see about the place. We can see how the servers are dressed. They've got their chicken headbands on. You can see they're wearing a certain color lanyard. They have an ID. There's a few other things we can see here as well, though. There's a few bits of documentation left out on the counter. And these are actually vital parts of the puzzle. The first step for the kids is they're going to have to steal these bits of information, but the servers won't just let them walk off with them. They'll say, no, what are you doing? So they're going to have to cause a distraction. And the kids were absolutely brilliant with their creativity and how they approached this. We had one kid would just do a really big order, say I want 100 buckets of chicken, and so the servers would have to turn around and then spend a few minutes doing that. One of them pretended to be the food inspector, and yeah, one of them faked a medical emergency with a rubber duck that they got from one of the other activities, and I think they were there doing CPR on it. So they have loads of fun with this part, and actually sometimes they have too much fun and they forget that it's a distraction. And they'll sort of do it, and then they'll come away and think, oh, I was meant to be stealing something. Yeah, so once they've done that, what they come away with is the chicken shop employee handbook. There's lots of useful information in here for them, things like what the name of the company mascot and the dress code and stuff like that. They'll come back to that later. They'll need to put that into practice. And also, there's this little secret recipe release approval form, which looks incredibly useful for their goal. So after that part, they've stolen both of these things. The next step is to conduct research on the company. So these days, an attacker would do this online normally. You'd look on a company's social media, or if you're trying to phish a particular individual, you'd look on their social media and try and find information about them that you can then use to make your request sound legitimate. In this case, because we're entirely offline, I created a newspaper. And there's an article in the newspaper about the CEO, who's the chap in the outfit there. It's a fake story here, which is about a charity donation. And maybe the CEO has given away a bit too much information there, because there's a signature on there, and also his name appears in the article as well. Oh yes, there you go. The next step is they need to look the part. So from their research at the chicken shop, they saw that the servers wear a certain color lanyard, and also they have an ID. And there's a big stash of lanyards that I put out on the tables, so they have to choose the right color one for this. And there are also these ID forms for them to fill out as well. And obviously, if you're doing this for real, you put photos in and things. But they have a lot of fun drawing their profile picture in there, putting names in, and coming up with the job title as well. We've had some actually really famous people visit the chicken shop. So Keir Starmer and Jeff Bezos, and yeah, lots of others besides as well. Yeah, so what's next? Right. So they've put their disguise together, they've done their research, they know all about the company. The next step is to do some last minute revision before showtime. So read through the company manual. This is the second page. Maybe this bit about the customer birthday policy and the dance that employees do when that's the case. Maybe that will come up later on. We will see. But there's a few other bits in here that they need to follow, including how they fill in the approval form. They need to have this. They can copy the information from the newspaper into this, so they get the right signature with the star and everything. And yeah, then it's showtime. The kids are ready to go up to the counter and to do some acting and try and play the role of a legit head chef who needs the secret recipe. So they get a chance to go up and sort of practice their gift to the gab, as it were. The servers will go through those same steps, so they've also got instructions for what they need to be looking for, and they'll check that each of these steps have been done properly. So here's Mark checking that the ID has the right job title on it. It says in the manual it should be head chef if you want the recipe, that the color's right, and they have great fun with this as well. So Mark was literally saying this is a fake ID and like ripping some of them up at some points. But in general, they're really encouraging. Obviously, if you're doing this for real, you wouldn't get another go at it. You wouldn't be able to go back in and say, oh yeah, it's me again. I've actually got a different ID this time. But for this to work, of course, they're really forgiving, and they'll point out and give sort of gentle hints about what went wrong and say, are you sure that's the right lanyard? Are you sure it's the right color, for example? So once they've passed those basic checks, the servers are still a little bit suspicious, and so they ask for a few other bits of company information, including things like, oh, what's the name of the mascot, which is Colonel Plux if you didn't read it, and how do we greet customers when they come in? That's let us help you. But of course, the main thing is, what do we do when it's a customer's birthday? And that happens every single time, and all the kids end up dancing like chickens. Only one of them from each team needs to do it, by the way, but they all seem to sort of join in. Yeah, so that's my favorite bit. And actually, the servers were getting really picky with this year. They were much easier going the first time we ran it, but this time they really wanted to see like leg lifts and everything. Yes. So yeah, if they're successful, this is their reward, the secret recipe, but I'm not going to leave that up for too long. My favorite bit with this actually is when the kids realize that they can turn these rules back on us. And there was a time last year when we ran it where I asked for the recipe back because I'd only printed out so many of these things. And they said, well, no, you're not a head chef. But the other way they turned it on us is they would come up and tell us it is their birthday. And we end up dancing like chickens as well. Right, so feedback, how it went. Yeah, we had brilliant feedback from it. Yeah, lots of really cool stuff on there. Like they say, it's really fun, really interactive. They enjoyed the dancing, they enjoyed the headbands. Oh, the headbands were a red herring, by the way. If they wore them, they get told off because only the servers wear them. Headbands. Yeah, there's even what I assume is some Gen Alpha slang on here, maybe. Someone described it as peak, and I'm too old to know what that means, but I think it's a good thing. Yes, so I'm really pleased with how it went. I think we've had about 300 kids go through the activity so far, and they all seem to really enjoy it. It's rare that they don't sort of get what's going on. But thinking about improvements, I do wonder whether there's actually quite a lot of lessons woven into that that perhaps they're not quite getting because they're sort of caught up in the fun of it. And the way I run the activity at the moment, I don't do a sort of final gather everyone around and do a wash up. And I think actually that would be really useful, particularly for the sort of intermediate lessons, like things like you can't just trust someone because they're wearing an ID badge, for example, or don't share too much on social media. I don't know whether they pick that up from the newspaper thing. What else? Oh yeah, there have been some kids where you sort of had to prompt them and say, you know, I did actually give you instructions for this activity, and they'll just sort of, they just jump into things. They see a pile of IDs and they'll just start creating stuff, and they don't realize that they've got the answers in front of them. One group as well did get a bit carried away the last time we ran it, and we want to encourage doing things differently as part of this activity. But they took it a little bit too far, and one of them sort of crawled under the desk and literally started stealing things, including the lunch from my bag. So yeah, taking it a bit too far there. But on the whole, I'm really pleased. My plan is to do a YouTube video about this as well, where I'll hopefully be able to communicate some of those sort of intermediate lessons a bit more and get those points across as well. But yes, I'm really, really happy with it. And if it inspired just one kid to consider a career in cybersecurity, then it was well worthwhile. I think, are we up to about 20 minutes now? Okay, so really quick run through the other sides then. I just wanted to give a plug to the big conference, which is where I got the inspiration for this. So if you don't know about this, it's a sort of conference for people who do sort of STEM communication, so maybe more on the science or psychom side of things. But yeah, the inspiration for this came from a talk that I went to at the conference there last year, talking about how to use murder mysteries. This was particularly for museum engagement, so they bring people in and do a murder mystery and you look around the museum. But yeah, that made me think, how could I do this for my area as well? This is a great book. If you want to know more about sort of social engineering, particularly as a career, Jenny Radcliffe is absolutely an amazing character, and this book is filled with stories of her doing this as a job and the absolutely insane situations that she gets into. So I'd highly recommend this. I was going to talk about why I think unplugged activities work really well, but I mean, I think that the gist of it is it's nice to get away from screens and do something physical, get the kids sort of moving around. And I think it's really different and memorable. I think it's one of the things that came out in the feedback was that I think it was it was really different to all the other things the kids had done on that day, and that was going to be the thing that they took away because of it. I also had a couple of quick plugs for other unplugged resources, but I know there's plenty of other stuff going on at the conference talking about these things. And being honest, I haven't had time to try all these out anyway, but I read about this one in Hello World. It looks really cool. For teaching AI in an offline way. The foundation has published this book recently, which also looks awesome. Again, I still haven't got around to reading it yet, but it looks really cool. And of course, there's a load of unplugged resources on the project's website as well, including sort of traditional icebreakers and other fun things too. A couple of really quick tips. So I found AI really useful for putting this activity together, particularly creating things like the newspaper and the secret recipe and the graphics and things. If you just need to sort of create stuff that looks kind of real, but you're not too fussed about the content, it's really great for that. And you don't need to use Mr. C's Ocean framework because it's just filler. Yes. So. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about this case study and sort of hearing about how unplugged activities can be sort of really engaging. What was I going to finish on? Oh, right, yes. So, yeah, as much as I love technology, I think it's great to step away from it at some point and sort of connect together and learn sort of directly as human to human. So my goal with this was to inspire kids to consider a career in cybersecurity and technology more generally. I hope the activities achieve that, but I also hope this morning I've inspired you to try out unplugged activities and also to try something that just sounds a bit weird. So yeah, give it a go, dance like chickens, you might enjoy it. Thank you very much. One last plug as well. Links and social links and stuff are up there. You can scan the QR code or take a picture of the screen. I am planning to share all the resources that I used in the chicken shop, so if you wanted to have a go at recreating it. But I haven't had time to do that yet either. But it will be up on that links page at some point in the future. Have we got 5 minutes for questions? Excellent. Yeah, any questions? Oh, do you need?
Thank you for that. Unplugged stuff's always really interesting to do. I tried it once with primary school kids and it was an absolute nightmare. That's probably down to my lack of planning than their ability. But I agree with your point. I'm sure, I'm not a teacher, but I'm sure teachers will back me up about the going back through what the learning points were from that. Yes. Because like I say, some kids can just get really sucked into the activity and come away with, well, that was good fun, but what did they actually learn from that? So I think that's definitely a really important point to put into that. And yeah, was that with the thing you did, was that it wasn't aimed at any particular cohort of students, like students that were interested in it in the first place? It was a general.
Yeah, that's a really good question or clarification. One thing I forgot to mention is it was aimed at years 8 and 9. So that sort of age range. I think it depends on the school. So the way the Empower event works, some schools just bring their entire year group, and some of them seem to be more selective, and I don't know how they do that selection process. I think it would be a shame if they were saying who's interested in this already, and bringing people based on that, because I think it really is about finding the people, or you almost want to do it the opposite way and say who wants to come and say, right, well, sorry, you can't. We're going to bring everyone else instead.
Yeah, no, brilliant, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you very much then, everyone. And thanks to everyone on the live stream as well. Bye. Yeah.
Right, on to the next. It is my great pleasure to introduce Douglas here, who runs one of our very, very successful partnerships in Kenya, which is involved in multiple clubs in Kenya. And yeah, so it gives me great pleasure to hear what you've got to say.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Douglas Monge, and thanks for coming for this session. We run a code club, or rather, the founder of that organization called Owas Madare. And Owas Madare, we use technology to improve the lives of vulnerable children living in one of the most difficult, or rather, informal settlements in Kenya. And today, I want us to, just share with you on how kids are learning computing outside the box. And later on, I'm going to share one of the boxes that we face in Mathare Slum and how we are going through. We are privileged to be one of the computer clubs that were initially set up in Mathare Slum. But now we have several, but ours, as compared to other computer hubs, is much more, we have like state-of-art modern equipment as compared to others. And just to give you a little bit about the background of Mathare Slum, like I mentioned, is one of the biggest informal settlements in Kenya. We are situated a few kilometers away from the central business district. And just like any informal settlements in the world, Mathare Slum is characterized by, poor housing infrastructure. As you can see, most of them, they are being made by, iron sheets, and they're really, really tiny. Like the biggest one should be like maybe 9 by 5 meters, or but the common one is sort of like 5 by 5 meter, and it can house up to maybe a family of 3, 4, or even 5. And they are very, very creative on how they use that space. So I don't know how you're wrapping your head around that, because in UK, where I'm living, with the family that I'm living with, they have multiple rooms. So the bedroom where I'm sleeping in houses more than 5 members of family. And there are only 7 public primary schools in Mathare Slum. Majority of them, they are located just at the border of Mathare, which means that the neighborhood can access those public schools. But again, even if these schools were located centrally at Mathare, then they wouldn't serve the entire population, because we have roughly 500 families in this slum. So there's no way that these 7 public schools will serve this population. And then we have just to solve this, we have community centers. They have set up low-cost private schools, and most of these low-cost private schools, the reason that's why they are low-cost, they receive cheap labor from teachers, and these teachers actually are not trained. So they have untrained teachers. As long as you speak English, you qualify to be a teacher in one of these low-cost private schools. And I mean, again, the schools are in that kind of setup again, made of iron sheet, really, really tiny space. Kids are being scrambled in a very tiny space. And going back to their home, they don't have electricity. Their parents cannot afford to buy them learning materials. So a combination of all these factors definitely guarantees the failure of the education system in Dar es Salaam. But the reason as to why we are passionate about technology, because we believe technology does not have a boundary, and it's the only way out for majority of them, because chances are, with all these challenges, they might not finish formal education. So, like I mentioned, some of these teachers are not trained. The learning that they deliver is sort of like, it's teacher-centered. They are not trained, so they have to prove themselves, or they have to do the best to their ability to ensure that the kids are learning. And this forces the teachers to train, or rather to not to teach, but to help the student to memorize. We actually noticed this while we were setting up a code club. When some of the facilitator training, we realized that these kids are actually memorizing word to word what they're being taught. And that's a problem, because, I mean, it does not, support or innovative. I mean, but it's working now, but, things need to be done. I mean, again, it's very fixed, no creativity. So they have a plan. They have to follow through that plan in a term. Definitely, it's a very, very structured learning. So, how are we doing it differently? First of all, because we have very sophisticated gadgets now. We've been trying to use things like, VR, but also try as much as possible to use non-computing hardwares, because we are in an environment where there is limited hardware. These are computers and connectivity, that is internet. And back in 2020, when we had a shutdown, kids in Dar es Salaam, or rather, kids were asked to learn from home. But we realized that kids in Dar es Salaam, they could not access online content, because, I mean, they don't have internet. Although there is a very good deep penetration of smart devices, very cheap Android phones, but they can't access, they are caught up between buying food and internet. So we developed an online learning platform that used the USSD and SMS. I mean, it was literally accessible to them as long as they have a phone that can send and receive text message. And that's when we actually started, but we distributed some Lego kits, which were also ridiculously expensive. And then we give them some codes. So that the program hosted school curricula and also non-curricular, that is code club content, where they are doing it via text. They're getting some steps, how to, they're using EV3, but it was ridiculously expensive, so we had to drop that. But again, we realized that there's no way we can rule out internet. People or Mathare residents definitely need internet. And we sort of developed, or rather we started, we learned how to set up a network infrastructure. So we sort of hosted a computer that acted as a server in our office, and then distributed some nodes in Dar es Salaam, or access points, Dar es Salaam, and then they could access that. But we had to sort of put it down, because we needed a license. We didn't know that we needed a license from the government to set up that kind of infrastructure. but now we have a license and we have deployed a very good Wi-Fi infrastructure. But the point I'm trying to say is that we live in an environment where there is no accessibility to tech gadgets and tools. We are very privileged to have this, but in other just nearby, because the Madara slum it's a collection of many slums. So the nearby slum, they do not have access to whatever we have, and you have to think how can they use what they have at home. So how do we make how do we excite them? How do we overwhelm them, if not whelm them, to come and join Code Club? So the first few sessions that you normally do is, we showcase some of the projects that were being done by the students. It could be as simple as, could be as simple but very complicated. We have had an incident where kids, they did an automated light. We were nominated by the royal family, I think in 2021, to do beacon, Jubilee Platinum beacon, similar that kind of Olympic. And the students decided that, you know what, we are not going to, rather than doing the Olympic, the normal one, why can't we do just a voice activated beacon? And that was done by the students. So such prototype or design, we bring them on the first day, show them that these have been done by the students, and actually you can do them. And of course, once in a while we have, like inspirational talk, people who are respected in Kenya, Nairobi, in the community to come and sort of like give talks, which is very, very much important because I was born and brought up in this slum, and the way I used to think while growing up in this slum, it was totally different from how other kids were thinking outside the slum. Sort of like you just live in a sort of like a bubble, like you have no idea what's happening. So these talks sometimes, they trigger that that spark in them for them to be dedicated and come and join code clubs, because there is a high likelihood that is going to be the only thing for them, because maybe they might not join uni, but at least they know something. They have a starting point in tech. And then we while training them, we try as much as possible to for them to use their body parts or play some character games that emulate Scratch, where you have to you take some instruction, otherwise you win, or if you don't take the instruction you lose, and that kind of stuff. And my favorite part is using the social capital that we have. So we have a software engineering program that targets young adults. These are above 17 years all the way to 35, but our primary target mostly is 17 to 25, because those above 25, they have other commitments and they may not engage themselves because it's a very intense program, 1-year program. And before they graduate, these software developing students, before they graduate, they must go to these code clubs and train kids, train teachers, and just sort of like improve on their skills. So yeah, that's all it about what we are doing at our Matari, and thank you very much. I don't know if anyone has a question.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Douglas? Yes.
Hi. Firstly, I think Fiona from the Peterborough Coder Dojo came out to Kenya recently, so she'd want me to say hi.
Thank you.
Secondly, as a teacher in the UK, what can we do to help you? How can we get involved and how can we contribute to a program like this?
One will be, we need more equipments. But I'm thinking in terms of like, because I've interacted with some of you who are running amazing code clubs or programs here. And I think sort of like an exchange program, we can do virtual calls, we can do, virtual challenges. Want to expose these kids to what you guys are doing. And also, just to sort of like challenge them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk and see what we can sort out.
Nice. Thanks. Thank you.
Personally, it's complete inspiration of what you're doing. And in your mind, what does success look like for what you're doing? What's your end goal?
Our end goal is to ensure that every youth that starts as a kid, they at least have some skills that will help them earn a livelihood. And that's why you use technology as a tool of change.
And how are you measuring that in what you're doing? How are you measuring the impact of that? How are you? Because you're always going to get in any club, even us, in whatever environment, you're always going to get those one or two that shine and will go on to do greater things.
Yeah.
How do you measure that impact and what impact you're having?
Yeah. So we have developed a tool, a survey kit that helps us to see the progress that we are making. And sort of the first tool is a baseline survey, and it goes, for all, any of our participants, they go through that. So sort of like take their level of tech literacy, their inspiration, what they want, how do they think that you're going to support them. And then once they join into a program, we sort of like do training evaluation. This could be tests, could be challenges, observation, see how they're progressing. And that's almost like after 6 to 8 months. And then after that, we do like an impact assessment survey. These like 3 years, 4 years. So we sort of like do a follow-up on how they're doing in life. If they took a tech-related career, you see that we sort of like made an impact into their lives. If they are not doing, or they did not take a tech-related career, like how did we help them support achieve their goal?
Cool. So you've almost got you follow that group, that each cohort of students all the way through, and sort of keep in touch with them.
Yes. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's really interesting. I think from some of the discussions we've been having yesterday were around how do we track students' progress and stuff like that, and perhaps that's something we can learn from these. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pass it back to Katie.
So if they've gone through this and they've learned coding and stuff like that, what are the career opportunities for them? Are there careers in the local area, or is it so they can get careers outside the local area and be able to move? Or
that's a really good question. We are very vast on tech, and the reason as why we are vast in that because, like I mentioned earlier, majority of them do not have an opportunity to finish formal education. So we might have a class 8 or a primary dropout, and they're hustling. They're just doing some manual job. And for this kind of a kid to access a non-tech related job is quite difficult. But if they they do some tech and then they can actually change. We have had that. There's a lady who came. She graduated and changed her career, but her first point of contact was she was a techie, and then she later on changed. Well, she had enough resources to take her back to college, uni, and then, or rather, she cleared high school and then went to college and did community development.
Hi there. Here you're saying you're trying to expand. How do you intend to expand it more around these slum areas? And is that going to cost a lot of money or?
Yeah. So our expansion strategy is first of all is leveraging on partnership, local partnership. We are working in Kibera. Kibera is actually the biggest slum in Kenya, and we are at the moment we have expanded to Kibera, courtesy of Raspberry Pi Foundation resources. But we had already identified the partners that we should work with in Kibera. So what we're doing is first, doing capacity building to schools, community centers, library, and then afterwards we look into how can we fundraise for them and get maybe a few laptops or computers, and then from there, it's up to them. All we can do is just remotely support them in terms of capacity building. That's what we do, and in Mathare Slum as well, it has worked really, really well. We have few community or youth organizations that we have trained, and now they are doing really, really well. Some of them are in tech-related capacity building. Others have gone into other in environmental soft skills, and they are doing really, really well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Right. Right. Well.
crack on.
Yeah, I think we're good. Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next session. For those of you who've been to this conference before, Liam will be a familiar face to you. For those who don't, this is Liam. He is the mastermind of a whole series of code clubs in libraries across Leeds, which, for those of you who are not familiar, is a large city to the north of England. So it's with lots of libraries with very different characters, so it's no mean feat. And we have a workshop for you today, so there'll be lots of opportunities to do some doing as well as listening. But yeah, with no more ado, I pass over to Liam. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, morning, everyone. I was lovely. I wasn't expecting a nice introduction. That kind of wipes out the first part of my talk, which is good. This is very strange. I do feel like a bit like I'm supposed to be a stand-up comic and cracking out some jokes or something. So yeah, what's the deal with airplane food? Anyway, yeah, so as Tamsin was saying, I'm Liam. I'm the Senior Librarian for Digital at Leeds Libraries. So I work in our universal offer for information and digital. That covers digital learning, digital health, digital inclusion, and then the fun stuff, which is the creative digital side of things. So as Tamsin was saying, I run our code club at our central library, and then I also oversee the other code clubs that we run after school at libraries around the city. So this talk today is about one of the things that we've come up with, which is creating a collaborative platform game in Scratch. So the first half of this talk is going to be me talking about how we did that in Leeds. Mainly I'm going to be focusing on all the mistakes that I made creating these games in the hope that you won't make those mistakes when you hopefully pick this up and run with it. I'll be giving you tips on what helped us succeed and things that I would have done differently. And then for the second part, I've already created what is called a Scratch classroom that I'll talk about in a second. And then you lot are going to be the students. You're all going to design one level of a game that I will then put together. And we will have our very own Code Club Conference platform game. That's the plan anyway. I'm just letting you in a little secret. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, but my ultimate goal for this whole thing, I would like to take this one step further. I know we've got a lot of people from overseas. Is anyone from overseas in the room today? Cool. So I'm going to hopefully set up one of these classrooms and we're going to make a global platform game. That's going to be the plan anyway. Anyone who wants to be involved, I'll talk a bit more about that. And hopefully you'll understand that it's not as scary as it sounds when you start cracking on with it. Cool. So, oh yeah, the game that I've created for us here today, by the way, is basically Pico is trying to get to the Code Club conference, but he's fallen through a drain into an underground. He's stuck in there full of monsters, or well, full of whatever you guys decide is going to be in your levels. You've got to help Pico get back to us. Just a little bit more background. So in Leeds, in our library service, I'm very proud of our digital offer. We have a very strong digital offer across the board. A lot of library authorities look towards us to see what we've been doing. And a big part of that is my colleagues in the past, my previous manager who's now retired, who was the first one to set up code clubs. And the Raspberry Pi Foundation has been massively helpful to us throughout the course of that. We've got to the point now where all of our librarians are trained and able to pick up a code club and run with it. They've supported us with getting equipment. And yeah, through Code Club, we've been able to reach new audiences in our city. We've been able to make new connections with community organizations, even with tech companies. Leeds has got a thriving tech industry, and we've had lots of chat with people like Channel 4 and ITV and Sky, and everyone who's based there have been able to help us in some way with kit or sponsorship or supporting our code clubs. So thank you to Raspberry Pi for all of that help. And it also helps us incorporate our other library offers. So when we use the Code Club website, we use their modules and we adapt them to sort of fit our library offers. So we do a lot of things around literacy, obviously. We want to encourage kids to read books. But we also have exhibitions. So we try and use the exhibitions as like a theme. So we'll pick one of the Code Club modules and then we'll sort of tweak it so that it fits with whatever exhibition is going on. And what led to this collaborative platform game was actually COVID. So when COVID hit, obviously all of our libraries completely closed down. All of our code clubs came to a stop. But we were really keen to keep that momentum going. So we tried running a virtual code club. And it was when I was researching what types of projects we could do in a virtual code club for kids that were all over Leeds in different places, was when I came across Scratch Classroom. We wanted to use Scratch because, you know, we've used it lots in code clubs. Kids are using it in primary school. The code club website has all the modules on Scratch. So it made a lot of sense. So if you haven't heard of Scratch Classroom, to access it, you do need a teacher account or an educator account, which is something you request. But I'm not a teacher, obviously, and there was absolutely no issue with me getting an account. I think all of us, if we're running a code club in a library or community centre, we're all sort of teacher adjacent, I would say. So I can't see there being any issue at all with them giving you one of those accounts. I'm not going to talk so much about the actual process of getting a teacher account, because it's just filling a form. It's not rocket science. So there's a step-by-step guide on their website as well to get you through it. But what I will talk about is just some of the benefits. So it's a really great option just for regular clubs as well. So we've had many times in the past where we've been running a code club using Scratch. We get to the end of the session and the kids haven't finished quite where they got to where they wanted to go. And they've said they want to complete it at home, but maybe they don't have an account, because the majority of the time we're using our public PCs in libraries. Anything you download, it just gets wiped the second you log out. And we'd prefer kids not to use their personal accounts on a public device, you know, things like that. So with a Scratch Classroom, you as the teacher can create student accounts. And as long as you don't use any identifying information in the name of the student account, then that's all fine. So we, for example, we just use the library code for whichever library it's at. So Headingley Library, for example, would just be HE1. That would be the student's login. Bramley would be BR1. All your logins are basically ClubCon1. You know, nothing that's identifying. That's absolutely fine. Really importantly, you get the option to set the password, and you can then reset the password when the kids forget your password 5 seconds after you've told them, which you know is going to happen straight away. But a Classroom, it just gives you that control over what the kids are putting in there, and as I say, you can help them out resetting the passwords and so on. So when you create a classroom, you can do that for a group of students, but you can also have multiple classrooms. So if you run multiple clubs, for example, and you wanted to differentiate between each one, you can have a classroom for each specific set of students. You then create studios, and that's where all your students will put all of their work in. So they can access each other's and they can comment on it. You can control that as well, so you can turn off commenting if that's an issue. But it's just a good way for kids to be inspired by each other's work and, you know, mess around and have a look and see what everyone else is doing. So what I've done today, I've created our classroom. I'll give you all logins in a little bit, and then I've created a studio, which includes some of our completed platform games that we've done in the past, and then also a starter level and a remix this level, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Ultimately, this is just a really great way, I think, to encourage collaboration, particularly if, like us, you've got code clubs that are happening in separate places, and those kids would never have an opportunity to actually see what the other groups do. So something like that, it's really good. I just wanted to include this slide. So this is some of the finished code for our main character in our most recent game that we made. I'm not doing this to try and scare you off. Not trying to do this to show off either. Maybe a little bit to show off. But yeah, so I have zero background in coding, absolutely nothing at all. I just muddled through a session on Pico and needed help from several people as I was doing it. Yesterday with the conductive thread thing, I managed to stab myself in the forehead with a needle. So that's the sort of level, you know, I'm working at. Yeah, I have managed to come up with this. And that is basically just the dodgeball module from the Scratch website. It's basically dodgeball, but with more sprites added. So honestly, and I bet I can guarantee you there will be many people in this room who could look at that code and say, why didn't you do this that way, do this that way? You'll be able to improve on this easily. But basically, I'm saying if I can get there, all of you definitely can. I really wanted to include this as well, because this was massively improved on the first time we did this. And which brings me on to probably the most important thing, which was all the mistakes that I made, which I'm going to talk about now. When we did the first game, so a lot of the times in our code clubs, we really want our young people to take ownership of the session. We want them as much as possible to be leading the session and to be doing what it is that they want to do. But I've been finding out more and more lately that young people actually prefer, and this is what they're telling me, they prefer having a goal, they prefer being challenged, they prefer some guidelines to at least get them going. Not being told what to do, but just having a few things in place. I think it overcomes that fear of the blank page. You know, if you want to, we all want them to be as creative as possible, but if you just give them a blank canvas and say, right, do something, you know, it's a bit overwhelming. So actually putting something in place, which I think is called creative constraints, just having a few guidelines there actually will help focus them and at least get them, you know, get the ball rolling, and they will then pick it up and run off with it. And I really, really wish I'd done it in our first game. So we decided during lockdown, the people accessing ebooks absolutely exploded. We thought it was a good opportunity now to promote our ebooks to younger readers. So we went to BorrowBox, who's our ebook provider, and they very kindly allowed us to have unlimited downloads on a book called The 13-Story Treehouse, which is by Andy Griffiths. So we got all of our Code Club kids read this book and then come to our virtual Code Club, and your challenge is going to be, you're going to design one level of a treehouse in Scratch, and then I was going to put them all together, and that would become our 13-story treehouse. And on their level, they would include obstacles, monsters, or whatever that would be inspired from the book. Because we didn't give them any sort of guidelines other than read the book and do it, we thought, you know, this is going to be really creative, and it absolutely was. They did not disappoint at all. So these are a few of the stuff that they came up with. I was actually expecting them to use the existing sprites that are in the Scratch catalog, but the vast majority of them decided to create and draw their own things. So we had zombies, we had the pterodactyl sharks. That weird thing in the middle is a marshmallow firing robot. And then we had joke telling fish. Anyone know that joke, by the way? What do you get when you cross a fish and a kitten? A piranha. Terrible, isn't it? But yes. But yeah, we were absolutely blown away by the creativity. And for our game, it was an absolute disaster. Because when I came to put in all of that code together, we would have one level where the main character was a pterodactyl, and then as soon as moved on to the next platform, all of the code broke. It stopped working because suddenly there was a new character in place, and we had to redo it again. And then the next level, it was a zombie, and so on. So this comes to my first tip, which is really, really important. You can probably guess by now. Everyone in the game uses the same sprite. So that is your first creative constraint. Everyone uses one sprite. And to go a bit further, I would actually recommend using Pico. I absolutely love this little guy. Firstly, when he walks around, he actually looks like he's moving because he's got multiple costumes. You'll notice he's got different colored legs there. That's ripped straight from the dodgeball game. And when you come to coding your gravity, that just makes it look more realistic. The code's already written for you in that module, so you're not trying to recreate it from scratch. There are plenty of other sprites that look like they're moving as well. You can use different ones if you don't want to use Pico, but the important thing is everyone uses the same one. It's also really good for the narrative. You know, if we're trying to create a game, all games have a great story. If you have one sprite, then you can mold that story around that particular sprite. So yeah, definitely use the one sprite. And then the second tip is for your platforms for the game. Everyone uses exactly the same color. Same concept, really. Again, when we went to put all those levels together, because their platforms are all different color, instead of that one bit of code working as part of the gravity, when you touch black, for example, everything stops. If those colors are out even just a little bit, your character suddenly will fall through all of those platforms, and it doesn't work. So I would just recommend, I mean, I'll put black there just because it's probably the easiest one. And also with the slider, when you come to actually drawing your platforms, you just put the slider all the way to one side. So it's definitely the easiest color to use. And if that slider is out even by one, then the code breaks and your character will fall through the platform, which actually could be quite a good thing if you wanted that as part of your level, if you wanted to be like a little bit where your character is going to fall through to kind of trick the kids. Because if you, you know, if the slider's out by one, you can't see the difference, but obviously the code will. So that can be quite good. But yeah, first two tips, use the same sprite, same colors for all of your platforms. Something you also need to do as you're putting the game together is figuring out how you want your character to move between the different levels. So this is actually quite easy to do, but narratively, it's really quite important as well, just for the game to look professional and good. That's what we want. So for the games that we've created, pretty much all of them have been sort of climbing games. So we had the tree house. The goal was to climb to the top of the tree house. We had another game that was based on a lighthouse. Again, the goal was to climb to the top of the lighthouse. There's no reason why you couldn't do that horizontally, though. But the important thing to remember is when you've moved onto your next screen, if you start at the left, the kids should know you're trying to get out at the right. And then when you jump to the next platform, obviously the character begins on the left. Otherwise, you know, it just looks a bit funny if they all start appearing on random parts of the screen. You could use teleportation. And actually, if I go back a couple of slides, the one with the pink background there, one of our kids said you couldn't get through the level unless you jumped into the toilet, and the toilet teleported you through, flushed you out into the next level, which is a really fun way of doing it. So there are, you know, interesting ways of doing it, but just in terms of making the game look professional, try and figure out how you're going to get through your level. So this one, for example, you enter through the door on the bottom right, and then you have to climb up to the top, and there's a trap door on the top right. So then when you would begin on the next level, obviously Pico would start on the bottom right of the screen, because that's where, in theory, the trap door would open to. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's really good for the narrative of the game. I've just included just some code on the right-hand side there, because it's actually quite easy once you get in the flow of things. You start realizing every level will have the same bit of code that will affect how the game moves or how your character is. So you can just end up with one really long thread where you just keep adding to it. But I do feel like this is something that some of you guys could look at and think there was a way easier way of doing this with just 1 or 2 blocks. So I'm hoping maybe some of you can have a look at the code when we get into the studio and then come and tell me what should have done better. That'd be great. Yeah, too. Cool. Oh, actually, I'll just talk about, so yeah, the other thing was the moving platforms. All of our kids all wanted to have platforms that moved around in the game, which is absolutely fine. But the way they would try to do it at the beginning by drawing it like they drew all the rest of their platforms, but it doesn't work that way. You have to create a sprite. But basically, you create a sprite as long as it's got the same color as your platforms that you've drawn, then the gravity code will work and your character will be able to jump onto it. But we did find with the ones that go up and down, that actually if your gravity code, for example, is telling Pico that he should be falling by -4 unless he's touching black, if the platform is moving quicker than -4, he will actually just fall, like slowly sink through the platform and then drop down. But one of our kids figured out if they put that little blue line in there, they created a sprite that was that little thin blue line. They could add some code to say that if Pico touches that, then he should jump by +5. Which meant that, you know, the syncing problem, that was just a nice little debugging that the kids came up with. And they start projects. It throws up so many of those. So it's a really good learning process for all the kids to get on with. So these are just some sort of random tips that I thought were really useful, but I couldn't think where to put them in a presentation, and they probably weren't worthy enough of having their own slide. So the first one is one problem we probably did in the first game was every obstacle, if you touched it, it was game over, which is fine. A lot of games are like that. But our game ended up having 19 levels. And if you got to level 18 and touched the sprite of the air and got sent back to level 1, I mean, that's just going to piss you off. And, you know, you don't want to, we're not trying to, we want to make something that's fun, not that's terribly frustrating. You could do something like you could add lives. So if you get touched 5 times by a sprite, then it's game over or something like that. But what we ended up on was basically if you do touch one of those sprites, it just sends you back to the beginning of the level. Yeah, it was a little bit easier. As I say, we're trying to make something that's fun, not that will drive you crazy, which moves on to the second bullet point, the mute button. So I don't have children, but any of you who do, and I guess we all work with kids, if there is a chance to make a really loud, annoying noise, the kids will take that opportunity to make that really loud, annoying noise. So when they made their games for us, every platform screeched, everything beeped, everything, there was terrible music was added to it. When you're putting all those levels together, use your mute button. But do encourage them to use sound, because sound design is a huge part of game making. So it is really important for them to use it. But my God, I had long, luscious locks of hair when I started this game and just ripping it out as it went on. Rename everything. So when you create a sprite in Scratch, it will just give you an automatic sprite 1. If you create another, it'll be sprite 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. When you come to put everything together, you will get to a point where you need to find one particular sprite because the code hasn't worked or you've forgotten to add something. And it's much easier if that sprite is called trapdoor or handle rather than sprite 19. It's just much easier to find. Again, I'm speaking from experience there. There were lots of times where I'd forgotten to add a bit of code and it took me ages finding the right little thing. Same for the levels, because you're coming up, you'll have so many backdrops. Just call them level 1, 2, 3, 4. For some reason the kids all loved naming their levels. They spent ages coming up with crazy names for their level. Don't know why they bothered doing that, because I just deleted them straight away. But yeah, level 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything's so much simpler doing it that way. So the starter level, yeah. So in our treehouse game, we had the book that provided all the inspiration for the kids. So we didn't really have to set the scene or anything like that. The lighthouse game, we created that because in Leeds, it was the 300th anniversary of John Smeaton, his birth. Has anyone ever heard of John Smeaton? I did not think so. The kids who live in Leeds and who go to the John Smeaton School or the John Smeaton Academy have no idea either. But he was apparently the father of civil engineering. He was a really interesting guy, actually. And what we wanted to do was sort of celebrate that birth and also then encourage them to read up on him and the things that he created, one of which was the Smeaton Lighthouse. So you may have seen the white and red lighthouses somewhere in the past. They're based on John Smeaton's original design 300 odd years ago, or whatever. But with that one, as you say, kids don't know who John Smeaton is. So to set the scene and set the narrative of the game, we decided, well, let's create the first level so that they understand a little bit more. And that gave us the idea as well, we could do 2 levels. So we have the one level that sets the scene, the lighthouse, the light has broken in the lighthouse and there's a ship out at sea that's going to crash. Pico needs to save the day. And then the second level, he goes into the lighthouse, and that's where we included as many type of sort of obstacle sprites as we could, which are basically all ripped from Dodgeball, Ghostbusters, the boat race, those sorts of obstacles, and just put them in that second level, again, just for a bit of inspiration. So when the kids are designing their own level, they can think, I could take something like that, but I could make it a little bit different. I could do it this way, that sort of thing. But it was really, really helpful. And then using a remix this level. So again, with the treehouse game, we hadn't given them a backdrop, and quite a lot of the levels had just a plain white background, which, you're supposed to be in a tree. It's just white, it doesn't really kind of make sense. So, and you'll see in your classroom, I've created a remix this level, which just has, a background and one platform on it. But also I've included our chosen sprite, which is Pico, and I've already added the movement code and everything like that to him. So Pico will move around, he'll be able to jump, the gravity is all set. Again, for the projects like this, for me, the coding is obviously going to come into it as they create their obstacles, but for me, it's as much about storytelling as coming up with, a new way of telling a story through game, and also design. And we want the kids to just really crack on with that. Instead of spending maybe 20 minutes doing that movement code, they can just dive straight in. So yeah, and going back to that very first tip about everyone using the same sprite, if you've already coded it and it's there for them, they're not going to, hopefully they won't try and change the sprite and use something else. So yeah, that's what else have we got? Oh yeah, the broadcast messages and hide I found really useful, because there's times where there's little bits of code that apply to every single sprite or every level. And the one thing that drove me crazy was as you moved on to the next backdrop, the backdrops would disappear, but the sprites would always stay unless you added one code, which was when receive this message, hide. But you then have to add that to every single sprite. That was really frustrating for me until I found this glorious thing in Scratch called the backpack. Has anyone actually seen the backpack in Scratch? Yeah. See, this is why you're all better coders than I am, because I've done Scratch a million times and had never seen this little bar at the bottom of the screen called backpack. Never once had seen it. And then I looked at it and I clicked on it one day and then it opened up. And this is basically, if you haven't seen it, this is somewhere where you can drag entire strings of code, entire sprites, entire backdrops, and just put them into the backpack. you can then open a second project, open your backpack, and all of the code is just sat there waiting for you. So when I did that first Treehouse game, no idea that was happening. I was like having to drag and drop and so I click and hold with one and then use my second hand to try and open a tab and squeeze things in. When I found out that backpack, everything was so much easier. So yeah, it's probably the most useful tool for creating a game like this is the backpack, because you can just transport everything in so much easier. I wish I'd seen that right at the beginning. That's kind of it, actually. There are all my tips, really, for how we create a game. I think I'm connected to the internet. I'm going to try and show you our classroom first. Tamsin, if you can hand out so I'm going to give you all a login. So if you want to get your laptops out and load up Scratch, you'll be given a login, and I've created some little handouts as well that'll help you with your game. And then I'll see if I can just... does anyone have any questions, by the way? I probably should have asked that before we started moving on. Yeah? Sorry?
Have you heard of Griff Patch?
No.
Follow him on YouTube.
Griff Patch.
Scratch Master.
Okay.
Absolutely Scratch Master.
Thank you.
No.
Griff Patch. Okay. I will look that up. Just before we get started, so I mentioned how I've created a Scratch classroom, so I just want to show you what it actually looks like. So this is my educator account. From here, I can look at my classes. This is the club conference for 2025. If I look in there, you'll see all the students down here. So for your class, for example, if you've got a particular student who's come in and, I forgot my password, you just click on them. And then from here, you can then change their passwords and so on. You also then look into the main studio. So this is what you'll see in here. So these, I did create one for tablets. I wasn't sure if anyone was going to turn up with an iPad. This game is impossible to play, by the way, on an iPad near enough, but I have done a bit of a hack around. Hopefully everyone's got laptops though that you can use. But yeah, so we've got our 13-story treehouse game there, the John Smeaton Lighthouse Challenge, and then you'll see our ClubCon starter level. So as you can see, Pico just trotting along down Cambridge, and then, oh no, he's fallen down into a dungeon. A few little sprites coming after him. And then this is what I've done just to show some of the different types of obstacles that they could use. So you've got like lightning. This cannon is amazing. This is what one of our kids came up with. They drew this sprite themselves. And then you create another sprite that when you touch it, starts firing cannons at you. It's very cool. And then a frog that burps fire, because why not? But yeah, so has everyone managed to get to their login? Yeah. Can you see all the, so you can play any of the levels if you want. You can just jump into remix this straight away. And then your handout's got just a little bit of code. But yeah, I might just wander around and ask you questions if that's all right.
One thing is when drawing a platform, the key selector, well, so if you see that and you want to test your game, as soon as you move like that, the platform is quite a moving piece up. Get as many drops. So think about that we know people that need to have a drop. Where anything to be the level here or down here, then should something the other way. I know there's something having any So in this, you create, you create those, I would not create these yeah, you have to move those fine. If you don't want that, I wouldn't create that. Just make sure it's all zero, so it's still there. You can click the little down arrow. This is where click on oh, actually, this is the outside. Now you click retry. Yeah, I mean, with my reason, if we like to have a unified.
There we go. Has anyone created their own sprite? Their own little monster or anything? Using the existing one. Every time you got them on the remix, you create a new level. The remix level will always do that, as long as they can all use the same level. So if you go back to the
Okay, I couldn't find the wall.
in the studio. With the platforms, I mentioned like keeping them all the same, but actually what you do is black outline, it's fine. This code. Generally just keep it all.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Yeah, so you do I had to read your or you can make it really, really fine. Yeah. Why do you do that? It's in the video. Yeah, it's in the options. Oh, yeah. Very helpful. Oh, it's video something, not just the main something. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know whether you both. I've never used video something. I never used to take something, but then I'll get myself to use it. Yeah. I mean,
I feel like I'm having flashbacks. No, not more noises. The tree house game. So you can use the, for this code here, use the second one. Like, oh yeah, the amount of sections you can slow it down and do more studies. So just wait once, you can make it wait for a few seconds and then We've still got about 5 minutes, but I just wanted to talk about how you share your projects at this stage, because obviously they don't automatically get added to your classroom. So when your students have all gone into the remix this level, they'll do all their change, whatever. When they come to share it, once it's been shared, you'll see a new button at the bottom there that says Add to Studio. So you just need to make sure that they click on Add to Studio, find your classroom, in our case, the Cocoa Platformer, and just click the little plus sign. And then once you see the tick, when you then go back into Open Your Studio, their work will be in there. So if all of you have been building your level so far, if you save your level first and then go to share, yeah, it'd be nice to add them to the platform game. But yeah, make sure you've saved it first off. Good.
One thing we use in Black actually is quite a lot of those do have the Black woman, the characters of the That's right. Might have set this up very difficult. I think games put together.
I'm going to end up being a 200 level game.
Right, so I think we're just about finished for our session now. I hope all that was quite interesting. I hope we've learned a little bit, or I hope you certainly pick up something that you could go back to your own club and come up with one of your own sorts of games. If you are interested in joining this, aim at making a global game, if you want to come and see me now, I can probably stick your email into my email, and then I'll set something up and get in touch with you probably early next year. We can take it from there, really. But yeah, thank you for listening.
I am indeed. Thank you, Tamazin. So my name is Lizzie. I'm part of the Coolest Projects team, and as Tamazin said, I'm here to tell you all about Coolest Projects. So could you put your hand up if you have heard of Coolest Projects, if you've taken part in Coolest Projects? Amazing, great. So this makes this intro slide slightly redundant, but I will take you through what Coolest Projects is and all things Coolest Projects today, and then we're going to have a chance to have a look at the digital gallery later. So you'll have a chance to play with some of the projects that are submitted and hopefully find your favourite project too. So what is Coolest Projects? So next slide. I'm pressing the wrong button. So Coolest Projects is firmly for celebration and rewards. This is our massive showcase. We want young people to feel recognised, valued, not just for their coding, but for being able to communicate with people. And we want them to feel like they are seen and it's a showcase firmly, not a competition. So we get some young people who really want it to be a competition, that's fine. But we do not have winners. We have favourites, but we want the kids to feel as though this is something that they can show off what they've made. It doesn't matter kind of what level they're at, if it's their first ever project, if it's the most amazing project you've ever seen. We want everybody to feel like they're being rewarded, celebrated. And I think seen is the word that when we talk about Coolest Projects and what young people get out of it, I think is the thing that we always fall back to, is feeling like they're able to talk about what they've made and feel celebrated for that. So like I said, we don't have winners, we have favourites, and we invite judges to choose their favourite projects in each category. But yeah, we want it to be an opportunity for your young people to just show off, have a great time, connect with other young people, connect with mentors, and yeah, have a nice time. So what can you enter into Coolest Projects? Anything, literally anything. We do not want anything. I'm sorry, we do not say we don't want anything. We want absolutely everything. We want first projects. We want the most advanced projects. And yeah, even if it's unfinished, we say just enter it anyway. We're very kind of, we want young people to feel as though what they've made is celebrated regardless of what level it's at. So yeah, anything and everything. We have in-person events, some are hosted by RPF, some are run by our amazing clubs partners around the world. And we have our big online showcase, which is our biggest event, and that's from young people all around the world, which is super exciting and a really wonderful thing to have a look at as well in your club. So like I said, we're going to look at that later. Our events are crucially free and open to anyone. So that's for our online and our in-person events. So if you have an event in your country, we really recommend you go and check it out. It's a wonderful opportunity to connect with young people and other mentors as well. And if there's not an in-person event in your country, like I said, online is the place to be. We have projects from all over the world and it's amazing. We have projects that you'll recognise. I'm going to take you through some of them later from our project site. And then we have projects that you will look at and think, who is this child that's made this amazing project? I remember the first year I did Coolest Projects, I think someone made a flamethrower that they'd programmed. And I remember looking at it thinking, wow, I can't even judge this. I do not know what you've done, but it's amazing. So yeah, we have everything from all over the world in our online gallery. It's wonderful. You can enter the same projects to online that you can enter in person. We are not particular, like I said, literally anything. We just want that young person to basically get out there and share their project with the world. So we are not picky at all. We encourage projects to be shared in multiple events. The more sharing, the better is kind of our ethos. So these are our events for 2026. This is actually an exclusive. We haven't announced this yet. So these are our events for 2026. As you'll see, the events in bold are run by our amazing clubs partners. So again, super exciting. We haven't announced this yet. We have our RPF events are in the USA, in Ireland, in the UK, and in India. And like I said, the bold ones are our partner events. And then our online showcase will be opening in January for submissions, and we'll have our live stream celebration in June. Our live stream celebration is a wonderful opportunity for the young people to see and connect with people around the world. So we encourage people to get in the chat, to talk about their project, to connect with the young people who are also on the chat. It's very lively. We have 2 moderators for it. So yeah, that's our live stream as well. So very exciting. This is our biggest year yet as well. So we're always growing. We're always hoping for new events. So this year is really exciting. And yeah, very exciting. And you are the first to see all of our events for next year. So how can we help you with submitting your projects, for getting your kids excited. Where do you start with Coolest Projects? Like we said, they can enter anything. It can be their first project. And if you do need support with getting started, we have a lot of our webinars still available on our website. So these are webinars for each Coolest Projects category. So what they do is take you through a project from the project site. We also have lots of, like I said, projects available on the project site. We have stickers outside for you to take away to get young people excited. Stickers always very popular and a great starting point. They're shiny as well, which we always like. But also, if you have any ideas for how we can best support you, we are always open to ideas as well. So let us know, grab me at the end of the session or get in touch. My email will be at the end as well. So how can you enter? This is really exciting for us. Last year, we were able to introduce group codes, which hopefully make submitting to Coolest Projects a lot easier if you've got loads of kids in your club. So you basically will get a code that you're able to give to your young people, and then they can enter their project themselves. And it gives you a good scope of what they've submitted. You can edit their projects as well. It's making sure that it's a bit easier for you, not having to enter each project individually. And like I said, registration is going to open on the 14th of January next year for all of our events, the RPF run ones. There's a short registration form, and young people will submit a video if they've done a project in any of the other categories, and a Scratch link if it's in the Scratch category. Over 13, your young people can enter themselves, which is also helpful. And like I said, I think I'm now repeating myself, they can enter their project at any stage. It doesn't need to be finished. It can even be an idea. As long as they're able to tell us what that idea is and how they intend to develop it, that's literally all we need. We just want them to be able to get out there and share their project. So, Coolest Projects and your club. I think it can feel a bit daunting when you've got a blank slate, you're not sure where to start. So with Coolest Projects, we hope that we have enough projects on our project site for you to be able to get started. So we thought we'd have a chat with Fergus, who's in our team, who runs a code club in Cambridgeshire. So he entered for the first time last year. It was a new club. Most of the young people in his club hadn't ever made anything with code before, so it was their first interaction. So a really lovely opportunity for Fergus to kind of get them excited about code and feel like they were taking part in something a bit bigger as well. So he started by introducing them to Coolest Projects by looking at the gallery. So they had a whole session where literally all they did was go in the gallery and play with projects. I think he encouraged them to look at Scratch in particular because that's where they were going to start. So they did a whole session on that, and they did 4 sessions in total. And the project that he chose to start with was, I think it was something about, was it a storybook one? I think so. Anyway, he started with that project. It's on the Code Club project site. And he kind of, it was I Made You a Book, my apologies. So a great way for young people to kind of get to know coding. It's a basic Scratch project, but also one where they had scope to kind of get creative, make something a bit unique. Like I said, we don't mind if your young people make exactly the same project and then just submit it to the gallery. That's absolutely fine. I think for him, ideas. So I think it was a really nice way for them to funnel that creativity by creating a story. And it was very successful because, as you can see, Haunted House by Hannah and Eloise, which was a wonderful project, pretty simple platformer game, but very creative, very silly. We love a silly project at Coolest Projects. Was chosen as a favourite project by our VIP judge, which was very exciting. Fergus and his co-club also then got to share certificates at the assembly that they had at the end of term. So everyone gets a certificate for Coolest Projects. Again, we want everyone to feel celebrated, everyone to feel excited. So he shared the certificates in the assembly at the end of term. The 2 girls, Hannah and Eloise, got their medals, which I don't think they were expecting. So everyone who's a favourite gets a medal. And yeah, it was a really lovely first experience. They all got to watch the live stream back, and a lovely opportunity for them to get excited about coding and feel like they were part of something. This is the thing that we always say. It's a nice way for them to feel part of something global, especially with our online event. And Fergus said, I think for a new code club, a lovely way for him to feel like they were connecting to other code clubs around the world and part of something bigger as well. So a really lovely first experience for him and his code club, especially because they were chosen as favourites, which I can't guarantee, but really nice for him and his young people. So on this next slide, what's it like at an in-person event? I'm going to bring Tamazin on stage as an impartial, completely impartial person to talk to us a bit about in-person events. I think the one word that I would describe our in-person events with is energy. But I'll let you take it from here.
Yes. So, yeah, what is it like at Coolest Projects? And I think Lizzie's exactly right. Energy, lots and lots of energy. when you get to Coolest Projects, basically every creator or group of creator has a spot where they are going to present their project. They have it's really cool. There's stickers all over the place. They have customizable spaces around them so that they can draw all over the tables to kind of put arrows and tell more about their project. Lots of ways for people to take ownership of their area and to really showcase what is cool about what they've been up to, whether that be just an idea, this beginnings of a project, or something that they've been working on for a while and is totally finished. And so when you walk in, there's a massive buzz. It's very loud. I will not deny that. But what it's loud with is creators chatting to each other. I think one of the things that's really surprised me about Coolest Projects is how a bunch of kids who maybe have not met each other before really get excited about meeting each other. My code club in my kids' primary school has some of the quieter members of the school in it, and I've always wondered about how they would fare at Coolest Projects, whether that would be overwhelming. And I know other code club leaders have felt the same. But actually, I think what it's like for kids is they're suddenly surrounded by people just like them who whatever they've been doing, wherever they are from, all have this passion for their projects. And so this excitement where they're sitting down, they're sorting out their project, and then they're seeing what the person next door does. Wow, that's so cool. There's this really collaborative attitude where everyone's talking to each other. Each creator has a point where they should be near their project so they can tell the judges about it. But for the rest of the time, they're free to wander around and see other projects, and they really do. Even the kids who come in who are the quietest, possibly don't know anybody, very quickly they pick up this buzz and it's like, oh, you can go and see this person. What's happening over there? Is that a guitar? Yeah. It's like, what is this giant piece of polystyrene that's turned it? I mean, really, there's so much to look at. And so the kids wander around, they talk to each other, they show each other things. And actually what's really interesting for me is how quickly that conversations become much more than what you'd expect two 10-year-olds to be chatting to. Suddenly they're just saying, oh, so how does that loop work? What are you doing there? Have you thought about it? Then it quite quickly gets above my head in terms of coding. But it's like two professionals talking to each other about their work, because that's what it is. Two people who work very hard on something that they've spent a lot of time on, really know the intricacies, discussing exactly how that works. So there's a great atmosphere. Club leaders are talking to each other, parents are talking to each other. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Do you want to say more things?
No,
Right,
that was wonderful and completely impartial. Yeah, completely. Yeah. One example that is my favourite of an in-person event was we had last year at our Ireland event. Has anyone seen Five Nights at Freddy's? I hadn't. So we had a young person who had made this huge animatronic cupcake whose head went up and down, terrifying, actually horrifying. And it was almost like a magnet for the young people in the room. They all flocked to this. I think he was probably about 17, and he was the most patient. He was wonderful. He explained to everyone who came over to him how he'd done it, how he 3D printed every element of it. He had a line out the door, and it was a really wonderful example of that kind of interaction that we get, that kind of our slightly older participants almost become peers for younger participants, for people who are less sure. It's really wonderful. And I think the one other thing I will say as well is we don't want anyone to feel pressured to talk. We know that lots of young people are nervous about interacting with adults and judges. So we make sure that our judges are very briefed on kind of not pushing people too much. If they're not comfortable with talking to a judge, they absolutely don't have to. But we want them to feel like this is also about, developing their communication skills as well, which we hope is really important and useful to them as well. Some of our older participants are often going off to university interviews or practicing for kind of high level stuff. And it's a really useful opportunity for them to just get used to talking to people. So it's just a really nice atmosphere. And yeah, please do come along. If there is an event in your country, we really recommend you do get involved. And hopefully there's a little bit of that with our online event too. Like I said, we have our live stream event, which is always too much fun. And if anyone's had a session with Mark Kalea over this weekend, you'll know he's our host for our online event and very, very popular, Mr. C. So getting started in your club with a project, what do projects from our project site look like in the gallery? How do you kind of make them unique? Like I said, you don't have to. A great example of this is, I'm sure you've all seen Catch the Bus. This was our probably most popular project for the last couple of years. We had identical projects, but every single young person still received individual feedback on that project. And again, making sure that they feel seen and proud of what they've made. So for lots of young people, this is their first ever project that they'll make with Scratch. And we really want them to feel like they can submit that whatever stage it's at. So this is Catch the Bus, like I said, one of probably thousands that we've ever had. But every single one, hopefully, gets feedback that's meaningful to them and inspires them to keep going in their coding journey. Then we also have Make a Face. So this one will probably be in our advanced category because it uses Python, but again, hopefully easy enough for them to get started with because it's a scaffolded project. They can develop the mask kind of, so it's a bit different, a bit unique, it gives them a chance to funnel some of that creativity, but with it still within those constraints that hopefully give them that confidence to keep going. So this was Penguin by Selena from Canada. And then a great project that we had this year, also as you can see, chosen as a judge's favourite. This is Marble Mayhem, based on Rainbow Run, one of our Unity projects. And again, a nice chance for them to create something different, go a bit wild with it, or as I think is the case with this project, basically just do the project from the project site. The judges still absolutely loved it. And Neth, who made the project, his explanation was lovely. He'd done a video where he took us through it, what inspired him, what he would do next. So a really lovely project, despite being pretty much the same as something on the project site. It was wonderful and chosen as the judge's favourite. I will say the judges are completely subjective. There's no real criteria for choosing a favourite, and we want the young people to know that this isn't a competition. If they don't win, which we don't have winners, but if they don't win, it really isn't the end of the world. The whole point is that they get out there, they share their project, and they make something, literally anything. I cannot stress enough, we do not mind, we are not picky. And the judges will choose some really random projects as their favourites, and we can't explain why. But we have different VIPs every year from different backgrounds, and hopefully that gives young people a bit of inspiration as well. We get judges from Meta, for instance, from Amazon, and then our VIPs are all sorts of amazing people from across tech. So hopefully a bit inspiring for them as well to know that their project's been seen by someone who basically knows what they're talking about. I don't really. So I'll see someone's really advanced project and think, amazing, you're the favourite, and then I'll get someone with a tech background to look at it and they're like, oh yeah, that's pretty basic. I'm like, okay, fine. So it is very subjective. So please make sure that young people know, please don't take it personally if they're not chosen as a favourite. Every project is amazing and every project will be celebrated. We also wanted to talk a little bit about our AI category. So this is a brand new category that we introduced last year. I think AI can feel a little bit daunting, especially if you're young people. There are a lot of buzzwords around it, and it can feel like, again, where do I start? We had lots of AI projects this year. It was amazing. We didn't know what to expect, but we had projects from our project site, and we had projects that young people had pulled out of the air, basically. It was amazing. So in the picture, one of our amazing young people who entered her AI project to our Ireland event this year. It was our only project in the category. We just launched it, so she was on her own in her category. But it was an amazing project that basically translated into the Irish language. It was wonderful. It was a really wonderful project. Obviously the favourite because she was the only one, but I think it probably would have been anyway. But we want to really stress that the AI category is not a daunting category at all. We have our scaffolded projects on our project site. If anyone's ever used machine learning for kids, it's an amazing tool and a great place to get started with your young people. And even a simple classifier, submit that, whatever, literally whatever stage it's at, that's all we want and that's all we need. As long as those young people then go on and learn a little something, but also if they have fun, that's the main thing for us. And we have step-by-step guidance on our project site. So if you really do want proper scaffolding, we have that as well. And hopefully that's useful. As I said, any questions or any kind of ideas for that as well, let us know, because we always want to be working for you guys and making sure that you've got everything you need. So what does an AI project look like in the gallery? We had this amazing project called Eat Snacks with AI. So this is from Amelia in South Africa, and it's based on our Chomp the Cheese project. Has anyone tried Chomp the Cheese? Yeah. So with this, we had tacos, but could be literally anything. And this was a great example of taking one of our projects and putting a bit of a spin on it. As you can see, the video that was sent by Amelia was also very funny, very silly, and her explanation for it as well was wonderful. One of my favourite projects of the year. Just again, very silly, and a great example of creativity, but also, yeah, getting stuck in with something new, which is really what the AI category is about. We also had this project. So this is based on our fruit and veg classifier project. So apples or tomatoes, has anyone done that one? Yeah. So again, this was from Sanandi, and again, a great example of they're quite basic kind of building blocks of AI, and getting to know them, explaining them. She built a classifier on machine learning for kids, and submitted that to the showcase. Yeah, really nice, a really nice example of, yeah, getting stuck in. Not super advanced. I don't think it was actually finished, but showing that you've done something, again, literally anything. That's all we ever want. So it was really nice to see the AI category, yeah, being successful this year. So hopefully we see lots more projects in the next year. So we have lots of projects in our project gallery. What I would like to spend the next kind of 5-10 minutes doing is if you guys would like to look at the gallery yourselves and choose your favorite projects. As I said, we have no real rubric for this. It's entirely subjective. You can be as harsh as you want. You can choose the silliest project you want. As an example, our favorite project, possibly ever, was a project called Tailor Fish. So this was a project that 3 young people made in Scratch based on Taylor Swift's song 22. And the description for this project was simply the music video to 22 by Taylor Swift, but instead of people, it is fish. That was it. It wasn't chosen as a favorite, which I think is one of the greatest disappointments of my career, but was my favorite project ever. It was just silly. It wasn't very advanced, but it was just great. It was a really, really wonderful project. So what we're going to do is spend some time looking in the gallery. So have you all got a phone or anything? If not, don't worry, I can come around with my phone and show you my favorite projects. And what we're going to do is have a quick look at the gallery, have a play around with the filters. So you can filter by country, you can filter by category, you can have a play. So our Scratch projects are all interactive, and then our projects in other categories are usually videos that young people have submitted. But yeah, have a look and let me know. I'll wander around and see as well what you've chosen. And then after that, we're going to have some time for questions at the end if you've still got any. But yeah, have fun, have a play. I'll look around.
Obviously not too far. Yes. So yeah.
Yeah, because I'm doing the cybersecurity course at Rugby Finance, the non-track record. Exactly. I don't know if I want to take the risk. I don't know if he's going to be liable. It's a good idea. The Union Party Regime Minister, fantastic. This is the where is that? Yeah. I think no, you had it on the book. No, so yeah. So I'm thinking no, you can't. When it pointed out that you can you know that Oscars one where Bradley Cooper gets it, it'd be like the biggest ever. I'll give it. I'll try and get myself. So that's the healing scratch, and regardless. He's like one. He's like two. They're probably coming in Manchester this year, so I'm and this is not just
Hello. Have we all found a favourite project or a project on the project site? Yeah? Lovely. So, final part of the talk. First of all, does anyone have any questions or have they found anything that they'd like to talk about particularly? No? Lovely. Great. And does anyone have a particular project they feel very passionate about that they'd like to describe or talk about? No? Great, wonderful, makes my job easy. So as I mentioned earlier, we really want this to work well for you and your young people. So if you have any questions or suggestions, ways you think the process could work better, please get in touch. We are not precious at all. In fact, we encourage we encourage constructive criticism. We want this programme to be as good as it can be. So you can get in touch with us. That's my email address and my colleague Helen's email address. And if you'd like me to write it down for you, let me know. You can also get in touch on the Co-Club Slack, which is #CoolestProjects. We also have a newsletter that you can sign up for as well, which gives you information about events that are happening, hopefully in your country. But please all take part in the online. I will again stress it completely to your young people. Nothing needs to be finished. It can be rubbish. It can be an idea. It can be the worst thing they've ever made. As long as they've made something, that's all that matters. And we want to see it. We really do. As I said, our favourite project was Tailor Fish. So really, anything that makes us smile is worth sharing. So thank you so much. Again, if you've got any questions and you want to grab me at the end, please do, and please enter your projects to Coolest Projects. We want to see them, and we really appreciate every project that comes into the gallery as well. So thank you.